Hi everybody, Joe Fall here. I'm your instructor for Principles of Management Business 2330. This is a short video to guide you through successful completion of your term project. So let me go ahead and provide you some guidelines for it. So many of you know by looking through the course content that you do or the syllabus that you have a term project due for the semester, and your term project is what's referred to as an informational interview. So what is an informational interview? What's the purpose for it? So one of the best ways to learn about what's going on in a particular occupation or an industry is to talk to people who are actually doing that job, basically doing the job that ties to the theory that you're learning about in this class, the four functions of management: planning, organizing, leading, and controlling. Okay, resources. So, and the resources include people, time, money, equipment, knowledge. So, management, basically. So that process is called, doing this interview is called the informational interview or a research interview. So an informational interview is an interview that you initiate, you ask the questions. Your project for the term semester is to interview a senior management professional, and we'll get to some of those title examples in a little bit that you might give you an idea as to who you're going to interview. But first things first, let's go ahead and find out where you will look for the information, the instructions for your project. Go to the course homepage, click on course information, content, term project, informational interview, printed instructions. You can print those out, list of titles and occupations that you can look at to get some ideas as to who you might want to interview, and an actual project sample. So two things. First of all, about 95% of the people who do this project say, God, this is going to be awful awkward. I'm going to actually have to set up an interview. I'm going to have to sit down, talk to the person, ask the questions and whatnot. It feels kind of awkward for people maybe. And so, but at the end of the day, 95% of the people, 19 out of 20 people come back and say, man, that was a really cool project. The person really welcomed me. It wasn't nearly as bad as I thought it would be. And you end up learning a lot about what's going on in the industry. Other benefits that you pick up are gain knowledge, obviously, of what's going on in the industry, how you can tie the theory that you're learning about to the actual practical application. Interview skills, like I mentioned earlier, having to set up the interview, having to go through the interview itself, ask the questions, and at the end sending a thank you card as a sign of appreciation for the person who spent time with you. And again, that's a kind of an art that's gone by the wayside, and in some cases could set you apart from a job interview candidate in the future if this was actually a job interview. So okay, so first step in your project is to turn in a couple of possible candidates that you want to interview. And again, it's got to be somebody in a senior management capacity. And you know, if it's a small business, then the owner is probably the senior manager. If it's a large corporation, then you've got a lot to choose from. You're going to submit that soon, so check your Dropbox and your course calendar for the due date. You'll see it coming up real quick. Two candidates. And why are you picking two? Because you want to make sure that if the first one doesn't materialize, that you've got a backup plan. And so you're going to submit it in a Word document, student name, okay, candidates, principles of management. So the first person is Sarah Bible, warehouse and inventory control manager for Crayton Corporation. The second one is Patrick Joseph, store manager, Dick's Sporting Goods. Okay, so it can be virtually any business. So where are you going to get these titles from? So going back to the course content, that second document right there that you can click on is a list of management title examples. So go off of that list. There's tons of them: shift manager, store manager, territory manager, human resources manager, guest services manager, branch manager, and so on. So take a look at those, and you probably know somebody who's doing that job. And if not, ask a family member, maybe if they know somebody, or maybe an instructor or a friend. So a couple other things. So if you go to the instructions again, this is really important that you look at this. Look at that criteria. So right here it says, the interviewee must meet this criteria: work in a legally licensed business and have an SIC code. An SIC code is an industry classification code, which you can usually find on the internet pretty easily, and you'll need to include that in the introduction of the paper. Must manage more than 3 people, contribute to establishing department or company goals, play a part in the budget process, have hiring, scheduling, and performance review and termination rights. This person cannot be a relative of yours, and this person cannot work for the same company that you do. You're only going to interview one candidate, but again, you're submitting 2 names so that you can have a backup in case the first one fails. So you're going to submit those in that Word document, and I'm going to review them. I get them pretty promptly, and turn around and reply and say, yeah, hey, great, feel free to proceed, and then follow the written instructions and proceed with the interview. If you submit something like the counter person at Taco Bell, I'm going to reply back and say you're off target, and in order to proceed accordingly and get the most out of this project, you need to pick somebody else. So I'll work with you on that. I'll help guide you in that, but really think about who you're submitting first and foremost. And that portion is worth 25 points of your project. So, okay, so what's next? Finding your candidate, we talked about that, and so constructing the paper. So in your course content, you've got this really cool list of instructions. I would print it out. I'm a paper and pen and hard copy kind of guy. Here is instructions on the format, and I'll show you an example of a paper in just a second, and things that you need to include. So we're asking you to include a scanned copy of your thank you note, okay, a copy of their business card, and also a scan of their business brochure. So get a copy of their business brochure front and back, and maybe a copy of their organizational chart. Now, if this information is proprietary and they want to throw you out of the office or something, just say, hey, I understand it would be a nice add-on, however, it's not required. It'd be nice to have it so you understand it a little bit more, but if it's going to breach company protocol, then we certainly don't want to upset anybody there. Included in this handout as well are a list of the questions that you're going to have to ask, okay? So, and again, there's a big disclaimer up at the top that says, offer this disclaimer at the start of your interview. If any of this information is too sensitive, just say thank you and politely move on. So you have, in this project, 24 questions. And the first 10 or so are pretty general, but then it gets into more of the management stuff. For example, question 18, 17, 18, 19, 20. So question 18, regarding the company's strategic plan, goals and objectives, provide an example of how you contribute to the company's strategic plan, department goals or objectives. B, explain the frequency and the process of comparing the actual performance to the plan, and to what extent do you share your goals and objectives and actual performance with the staff. And then information about the budget. So when you're constructing your paper, question 18 is here, you want to break your answers down into A, B, and C. Question 19 answers A, B, C, D. So you might want to provide the interview candidate with a copy of the questions ahead of time. That might help them prepare answers for you and expedite the interview process. Make sure you obtain the appendices that you need to put into the paper. So a copy of the company or property brochure, a business card, and a copy of the organizational chart. And again, if they can't provide that for you, that's fine. So how do you construct the paper? Your paper is going to look like this. And again, this is a marketing paper, so it's going to, obviously the word's going to be a little bit different. The title, who you interviewed, the business, maybe some artwork, the company logo, your name, the date, and so on. You need to include an introduction, executive summary as it's called. This person includes some really cool artwork in her introduction. A copy of the person or a picture of the person she interviewed. So take a look at this example. It's a really great example. Also, when it gets into the Q&A part, if it were me, I would make it simple. I would copy and paste all those questions from that document into a Word document and just go back, number the question, here's the response. Number the question, here's the response. This person added some artwork, which is really nice. It's a logical, easy to read format. So continue that process until you're through. Your last part is a conclusion. What did you gain from it? What did you think of it? And then a scan of your appendices. Okay, you're going to have a brochure, an organizational chart, as well as a thank you card and a business card as well. So I hope these instructions have helped you. It's a fun project, and if you're a little intimidated by it, that's good. It'll get you out of your comfort zone. It's like wearing your watch on the other wrist a little bit. And if you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to shoot me an email or pick up the phone and give me a call. And I hope you have a good day. Thank you and enjoy the project.